It's not very stable.
Excuse me, Bear. I gotta sit closer to your lady. Excuse me, Bear.
Go lay down. Go lay down. He's like, where?
That's my spot. Thank you. Sammy's such a good boy.
I'm gonna take a thumbnail here.
Sure.
How do you do it? Do you just screenshot? Okay.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. So the feeling I get when I sit in the garden this time of year, and it's obviously, I'm being dramatic. I understand that. Like, I am sometimes because you haven't noticed. But
let's call it poetic.
Yes.
How about poetic?
I'm being poetic, romantic, if you will. It reminds me of sitting like with a dying loved one.
Oh, whoa.
Like, I will literally just come out here and sit and just kind of like take in what I know is like the final bit of like this year's garden, because it's never going to be the same. And it's so interesting since we built this. So we've had this garden for 4 years now, and I can tell you where certain things were every year. I can remember like each garden, and I think of them individually. Like, I think of them as, oh yeah, that was the garden of 2016, or that was, you know, the garden the year that Jeremiah's mom died. That was the garden the year this happened. Like, I just remember them individually. And I don't know, I just kind of try to soak it in. And I was just noticing all these nasturtiums that volunteered in the walkway over here, and just like little things like that, and I just kind of try to remember them.
Yeah.
It's so almost out the door. It could be any day at this point.
Yeah, when the big freeze comes, the big frost.
Yeah,
I do the same thing, but I don't think I'm quite as like romantic about it. I do remember what was planted where, and how well that garden produced that year, and what the soil was like, and videos also help to go back and remember, but mostly I just remember. And I think it's because you're doing the work. Yeah. Your hands are in it, and like it's almost like my whole soul is doing it, you know?
It's like a painting. Like you put this work into this art. Yeah, your soul goes in it.
So I always remember, and this was our best garden ever.
Y'all made so much food this year.
Yeah, we grew a year's worth of food. We're gonna make a whole video about that. Granted, it's not as much variety maybe as people would like if they went to the grocery store, and as we would like in the future. We need more garden space for more variety, but yeah, our garden did awesome this year. There were
so
many successes and a few failures.
Yeah.
But mostly successes, and that felt really good. What I think I'll know though that I'm like a really good gardener when I know why. Why this succeeded, why this didn't. And I'm getting better at knowing why. Yeah. So that's good. I'm getting better at being like, okay, this is doing poorly, let me fix that.
Yeah.
And then it thrives. You know, whereas the first few years I'm gardening, I'm just putting stuff in there and being like, okay, good luck.
See, I always try to tell people, like, just go for it. Because you are, if you just try, you're bound to have something do okay. Yep. You know, like, if you try a lot of things, I mean, something's going to work well for you. And you might not know why. And along the journey, you find out why. I think that's really good. I think that's really, really good. I'm still learning why. I would say, like, this year I had a lot of issues with some of my high tunnel tomatoes, and like I figured out why after I took them out, because the soil wasn't holding water, so I was getting all this blossom and rot. I was like, oh, and it's weird. Sometimes you just have to push through before you get the answer.
Yeah, for sure. And then sometimes I even need to talk to other gardeners in the area, in my specific area, to find out what happened.
Yeah.
Honestly, talking to local gardeners, they kept saying because of the rain, their garden didn't do well, but we didn't have that issue.
Yeah.
Now I have to say, if I'd waited any longer to dig my sweet potatoes, it wouldn't have gone well. They would have rotted.
Yeah.
But yeah. So every year I feel like we're getting a little bit better. We're improving our soil a little bit every year. But I also am about the mindset of like, just do it.
Yeah.
Because if you will. One of my favorite sayings of Joel Salatin is, you cannot Google experience.
Yeah, that's so
You can watch all the YouTube videos, you can buy all the books, you can plan. But until you get your hands dirty, you will not learn what you actually need to learn to succeed.
Yeah.
I also think it can go the opposite. You also need to plan and learn the other ways, but you cannot Google that experience. And that goes with everything on the homestead. And that fear that is holding you back from just going for it, like, just go ahead and bury that.
Yeah.
And just do it.
I always say turn your waiting room into a classroom. And like
Of course you do.
Well, like
Muse.
I know you, okay, like, I know
I
you
love
kind of,
it.
like, stumbled into this, but I obsessed over this. Like, I watched your channel and all the others.
Yeah.
Like, I was obsessed with having a homestead for years.
Okay.
And so, what I did is just, like, hoarded all this knowledge. And I think I
Yes.
saved myself a lot of heartache when I finally did get to apply things. I
Yeah.
had more why. Like, you know, like when it came time to put your hands on it, you still screw up. I mean, you're still going to kill things and you're still going to mess things up and you're still going to have to figure out why in a lot of cases. But like whenever you're able to get knowledge ahead of time, and like you said, but there comes a point you have to throw caution to the wind. You have to learn some things by experience.
Yes.
And it's like this aha moment. I remember like the first time I saw okra growing, I was like, oh, okay. You know, like if you
That's what it looks like.
Wow.
Don't you love now that when you see a volunteer come up, you know what it is?
Oh, it makes me feel like a genius.
I know! I am a gardening master!
Truly. I really do. I want to have a party for myself in the garden every time I'm like, hey, those are nasturtiums.
That's right. That's right. Or like you can decipher between different squash coming up, or like a cucumber versus a watermelon or something. But yes, I love it. I love it. And I love that as you garden, you learn what your family eats.
Mm-hmm.
You learn what you need to grow to actually feed your family.
Yeah.
You learn what you enjoy growing and what you're going to have fun growing, and what you grow just because somebody likes it. Like, yeah, there are certain plants in my garden that get hit pretty heavy by bugs, and I'm like, I don't want to grow you.
Yeah.
But those plants might, like squash and stuff, like, and I have to like go crazy on the bugs to get any harvest. And so, but you know, I plant them because they're prolific.
Yeah.
And they provide so much for us, even if they're kind of a pain to grow. But I do love growing pumpkins. They're beautiful when you harvest them.
Yeah. I thought I'd heard you say that before. That's why I thought of you when I saw that mug. Because I was like, I think Brie loves growing pumpkins.
Oh, yeah, I do love growing pumpkins. I do. And you know what's so funny? I did not know how this happened this year. I didn't plant a single pumpkin.
You had some though, didn't you?
No.
No? Okay.
I only planted butternut squash. I don't know what happened. I need to go back and watch that video. Like, I think what happened was I planted the butternut squash, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to save this area for pumpkins. And then I never planted them.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
But I have a plan for next year because those larger crops are taking up so much of my garden space. So my plan next year, I have a plan. I'm going to plant the vining squash plants, like the winter squash. Not in my garden.
Yeah.
And I think they'll actually do better because I kind of think when you move that kind of stuff around in various places, you have less bug problems.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So even though I'm moving it around in my garden, it's still in the garden.
Yeah, I got none last year in here because of the squash bugs, like stink bugs. And then I put them back there this year in a new place, and I got way more this year.
So that's my plan. And I have a lot of my viewers graciously sent me a bunch of like just heirloom pumpkin seeds.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna have an incredible pumpkin patch next year. It's always in my dream, and I've yet still to have an incredible.
To have like all those beautiful.
Oh,
different
yes, you know that people go and buy at the store to decorate. So next year, with any love and blessing from I will have a new house.
Yeah.
And I will have beautiful pumpkins to decorate
my. Put them all on the front.
Yes, on my front porch, and my steps that go down. Yes. And all around my mailbox, and in my front flower garden is gonna be beautiful.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I still haven't had that dream come true, but I've had that vision since I started a garden.
I love that.
And I refuse to buy pumpkins until I.
Yeah, you're like, no,
I will not buy them. I will grow these. I'm kind of stubborn like that.
No.
So yeah. I mean, last year we successfully did grow pumpkins, but I didn't have a variety. Yeah. I just had a bunch of eating pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. So.
Yeah, I grew a lot of sugar pie pumpkins this year. That was it.
See, I grew those one year. I grew sugar pies, but I found that they were just as good as butternut squash.
Yeah, they're very similar.
I'm like, I don't need to grow another variety of that. So mostly I just want pretty things. Or funny.
They're also good too. I mean, they can be good to eat too.
Yeah, roasted and stuffed. Like not sweet but savory.
Make me hungry.
One of my favorite things that you said this year that encouraged me and I don't remember if this was on one of your videos or on Instagram, but I happened to catch you talking about the wildness of the end of summer garden. And I, every year, feel so guilty at the end of the summer because my, you know, as I harvest things, then that area, I don't do a lot of succession planning. I just like, I'm like one and done. We just get it done. And then once I harvest, that plot will go kind of to seed and weedy, and I don't mess with it. So if you come to my garden in the end of summer, beginning of fall, it looks like I'm a terrible gardener. And Arthur every summer makes a video of our crazy end of summer garden. Like, you need to weed your garden. And I'm like, well, but what I loved was how you just talked about the wildness of the end of summer garden. And it totally clicked in my head to like not feel guilty anymore. I was like, that's right. I nurtured this garden all year or all season. And now I'm just letting her be wild.
I kind of view it like, you know, plants, they want to grow. We overcomplicate it. Seeds want to grow. They come up in the walkways. I mean, like right now there's like 400 tomato plants growing around my property. They'll die at the frost with their volunteers. But they want to grow. And so we almost like are harnessing something in gardening to get what we want out of it. But, and I know I'm being romantic, you know, like,
do it, girl. Poetic. Give me all the romance. I am not romantic, but I enjoy romance.
So I almost feel like when you I love just the point where you're like, I've gotten what I wanted out of this. And so it's almost like a moment of appreciation for me to just let her go. You know, like to just be like, okay, I have tamed you enough and you have fed me well. So like, here you go. And like this right now, the amount of, like, this garden is wild right now. There's nothing really intentionally producing here that I haven't already really harvested. But right now, I mean, you could eat for a very long time out of the seed in this garden right now. There's just so much seed. There's so much, and it's just its course. That's the course that it took. And
there's still a lot of beauty too taken from it.
Absolutely. And so that's why I just come and sit with it. Like, at this point, there's just not that much. I mean, there's a lot of weeds. I could make jobs out of it if I wanted to. But
I love that. I could make a job out of it, but why don't we just let the frost do the work?
Exactly. And so I'm just like, it'll die. It'll, you know, it'll go back to the ground.
It really will. Like, I'm always amazed. Now we started using silage tarp, which is a tarp that you put over your garden plots to germinate the weeds, and then it kills them. So it'll be a little different this coming spring. But in the past, I've always been amazed at how that wild fall garden is out there, and we've already collected everything. And then by spring, it looks barren because it has been frozen and decomposed by the next spring. No, not the weed seeds. They have not decomposed. They're just waiting for their turn. But every year I'm amazed by that. I'm like, how will this become a garden again? And yet every year I plant the seeds
and there it goes.
I weed, and it becomes beautiful again from the barrenness. And it's all just down in the soil waiting, or down in my seed packets waiting.
So you're romantic. That was pretty poetic. I'll give it a gold star.
Just rub off on me a little bit.
That's so good.
It's all of your words. Rubbing off on me. So, yeah, what is it about the garden? I mean, I think too, like, we do live in a privileged time where we don't have to truly worry about feeding our families. I'm not saying that we don't truly care about feeding our families from the garden, because I do, but I don't worry.
I joke about this, and I'm like, you know, this ain't the Oregon Trail. And he isn't gonna die of dysentery here. Like, it's okay. And honestly, you know, this year in the spring, when there was a lot of unknown factors and there were grocery store shelves that were empty, and I learned that there was actually a capacity in me that I wasn't 100% sure was there, because I love growing all the lovely things and the rare things, and I will 100% grow something unusual that produces a third of something that could produce a lot. But I actually learned this year that I do have the capacity to switch into food production mode, you know, and pick varieties that will give me the food. And, you know, that's kind of different this year. I was thinking, okay, let's plant large amounts of the stuff that I know will do well, and then experiment a little, whereas in the past it's been, let's experiment with everything. But it is, it is definitely different. I mean, the freedom to be able to say, sure, let's give this whole area to blue butterfly peas, which dye rice, versus, actually food. So,
yeah, I really love that. And I actually have to remind myself all the time not to take it quite so seriously. I mean, who knows? As we all know, this because of this past year, there could be a time where it will become a place of absolute necessity. But how I love that we're not there now, and we can learn, and we can make mistakes in freedom and without fear. And so that's why I think like it's good to start now. And I'm not saying there is a coming apocalypse, but as we know, our food system from this year, we know our food system is weak.
Yeah, it's just fragile.
Yeah, it's fragile and easily broken. And my goal, because of what's happened this last year, was to grow over a year's worth of food for my family. And I did. Yeah. And that's why we didn't start building our house or fixing our house. And that's why I busted it out this year, because I was just like, we are not going to be hungry, and our neighbors are not going to be hungry.
And it's good to know that you can.
Yeah. And it's definitely good. It's good to be learning what is the most productive, what is the easiest to grow, what will feed you, what will give you enough variety so you don't get nutritional deficiencies, and things like that. And then, of course, what's the easiest to preserve without, different people feel differently, but I feel like the easiest things to preserve are the ones you don't really have to do anything to.
Right.
So, like potatoes, like ferments, winter squash, pumpkin, onions, garlic, greens.
That was kind of our approach. We put up the high tunnel this year, and because we live in such a mild area, like I can grow food in that all year long. There are, in the winter, I'm growing things that can handle the cold, but still, like, I can have food all year long because of that. And it's just that approach of like, okay, what's practical here on top of what's enjoyable, because I definitely enjoy it. And I tell people all the time to fall in love with it, because it is hard, and you have to have a passion for it to get through the points where you're not driven. But,
the hot, itchy. And just like that, I don't want to go deal with the garden. I want to go read my book or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I guess to me, gardening doesn't really feel hard. So I'm like trying to think of things about it.
You have a lot of little kids in the house. It gets a little bit, I think that I have to think about that. Like for me, gardening is like, it's still, even when it's hard, it's still easier. Like even when my kids are out there with me, it's something to do. But like I talk to a lot of people that their life is just different, and for them the garden is like the hardest part of their day.
Wow.
That like,
that's like a whole nother perspective. Like it's easier for me because I have young children. Because it gives us somewhere to go, because it gives us something to do together, because it gets us out of the camper, because I have never thought about it that way. The garden became a passion for me when I had 3 children under the age of 4, because Jeremiah would keep them and I would come work in the garden, and I was like, I love you, garden. You are so quiet. I mean, that is my main place I go. Well, there's a couple of places on my property I go to hide, and the garden, especially in the middle of summer, because the corn's high and everything's high, and no one can see me. Nobody knows where I am. I have some other places that I won't mention because a child might watch this video and find it. But I have some other little places I go where they can't see me. Which, y'all, this does not mean we don't love our children. It just means that like,
if somebody thinks that means you don't love your children, they don't have children. If you have never hid it in your pantry to eat something, I don't even know. I just want to eat this. I can tear the wrapper in their leg.
Okay, I have children that have such good senses of smell. If I'll eat something sweet, specifically chocolate.
What do I smell?
I smell chocolate. And I'm like, there is no way you smell chocolate. But I can't be a liar, so I'm going to be like, dang it.
You're fine. Come here. Sit on my lap.
You can sit with us.
Sit right there. You say hi.
Do you like that your mama has a garden? Yeah. What do you like about it? Is it pretty?
What's your favorite part about gardening? What's your favorite thing to grow?
Ooh, good question. Oh, really?
Tomatoes. So Benjamin, I'll tell you about Benjamin. He's gonna be shy in front of the camera. But Benjamin is my garden boy, and so he started with the garden when he was really little. He was born when we lived in this house, and so actually, like, I brought him home from the hospital's March, and so he literally was born into gardening season when I was really it was new to me. And so literally his entire life has been in a carry on my back. He has grown up in the garden genuinely, and he's actually very interested in it, and he's actually a very good gardener. So he will go to people's house. He knows how to prune tomatoes genuinely. Like, it's very cool to me. He's my only child that is as interested in it as he is. But are you embarrassed?
I have one child like that too. My other kids will do it.
Yeah.
And they'll even do it with joy. And then they'll walk out of the garden. But I have one child who would not leave the garden.
Right. It's like an inclination.
Yes. He wants to be there. He is excited about it. He asks when it's time.
Yeah.
He stays longer than me.
Which
He'll
one
finish
is
the
it?
job. Brighton.
You want to sit down? The camera's on. You sit right here.
My 4-year-old Brighton.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He will stay until we're done. Whereas
Yeah.
the other kids are like, are we done yet?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they do it with joy, and sometimes they grumble, but they do it. But he's the one that is there.
That's kind of how
he wants
it is for
to be
us.
there and loves it. It has been a great joy and delight to be here, and just to get to see this place in person and just spend hours and hours talking.
We have not run out of things to talk about.
No, it's not possible.
Yeah. It is very refreshing. It is very, very encouraging to get around people who just share the same passions. And I don't know, it's just that it really is iron sharpening iron. Like, it whenever you get around people who have those passions, it's like fresh sparks on your...
It really does, and it brings me new ideas. Even if it's not something directly that you're doing, I don't know what it is. It's just like a new ideas, new perspective.
Yeah.
And total encouragement. So it's been an incredible joy.
Thank you.
To be at your farm for the weekend.
Yes.
And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of a different video and a little sneak peek into us just chatting.
Yeah. There was a lot more, but
yeah, we could have done hours. We should have just done a live feed.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we will see you guys in the next video, and thanks for joining me and Jess.
All right.